2.5 years older than me. Uncle Robert looked at me like the big brother and the father image. I didn't even know this till we got older. He told me. But you have to know the background before I can tell you the soapbox derby story. And we weren't wanted. Our uncles, we could hear them talking, yeah, to send the kids back to Jersey, what are they doing here? They'll never amount to anything. You know, it's a really sad story. And then my mother took us to Jersey when I think I was 7 or 8. Robert was 2.5 years behind me. And our great Aunt Seal come to live with us so she could watch us while my mother worked. My mother did the best she could. She was working for White Laboratory. And we really grew up in the street. And luckily we didn't get into any trouble because we didn't have the gangs they have today. We belonged to a group, the 13th Street group, which we played stickball against the other streets. So we were pretty, it was a much easier time. But we were always just him and I. It was just, we hardly never knew our mother because she was working all the time. And that's the way we were brought up. And then we went to Catholic grammar school, St. Rosa Lyman's. It was quite a few blocks from the house. We had to walk it every day. But anyway, I'm coming down the hall of St. Rosa Lyman's School. I got to back up a little bit. My mother could not afford to have us home alone during the summer, so on summer vacation, she would send us up to our grandfather's place up in Pennsylvania. And we just stayed there for a couple months during the summer vacation. But up the street from my grandfather's house was that family called the Newarks, who were into soapbox derby racing big time. They had super racers that they built, and they would take these cars out to Scranton, Pennsylvania, Akron, Ohio, and this was their hobby, the father and the 2 boys and everything. We got to know them pretty good. So we spent a couple of summers doing nothing but helping them build race cars. And I learned a lot about soapbox derby racing, the shape of the car, the weight differential in the car, where you should put the weight if you want to get off for a fast start, where you should put the weight if you want to get off to a fast start, but you lose speed down the hill. And they had special wheels. Akron, Ohio was this city of soapbox derby racing. They were Firestone soapbox derby racing wheels. And we used to go to the local races with them in Scranton and places like that. And they taught us a lot about racing, soapbox derby races. In fact, I was damn near an expert after 2 years with them. And so we're back home in New Jersey, and I'm coming down the hall of the school, and they put up a bulletin. First soapbox derby race in Newark, New Jersey. It's going to be held 4 blocks from my house. So I stood there in front of that bulletin, and I knew I could win that race. I knew I could win that race. So I went home and told my mother, now I'm 13. I went home and told my mother, Mom, there's going to have to be a soapbox derby race. I know I can win it, but I got to go up to Pennsylvania to get a set of wheels off Mr. Norton. So I called up Mr. Norton. I said, you know those extra wheels and axles you have up there? They're having a race down here. I want to build a car, and I'll buy the wheels off. He said, buy the wheels? I'll give you the car and the wheels. I said, I can't take the car. You got to build it yourself. So he said, well, come up and come up and get the wheels and the axles, and we'll get you set up. And so my own money, I get on a Greyhound bus, ride up there on Friday or Saturday, take a fishing rod case, put the axles in, took a suitcase to put the wheels in. I went up and he gave me the wheels, the stopwatch, and everything I needed that they were using for racing, you know. So I come back to Jersey, and I told my mother, I said, I can win that race. My biggest problem is keeping Robert's mouth shut that I got the wheels. He can't know that I have these wheels and axles. He'll tell everybody in the neighborhood. and that's the end of the plan. So my mother said, well, we got to hide him. I said, where are you going to hide him? He goes, and he knows everything. Live in a 3-room flat. Where are you going to hide him? So she said, we'll put him in my dresser drawer. That's one drawer he never goes in. I said, that's a good idea. So we threw her clothes out of the drawer and put the axles and the wheels in the drawer, locked it up. So now I got to build a car. So I went over to the freight yard, and they always had scrap lumber in freight yards on cars. So I bought nails, I had a hammer, and I bought a little hacksaw. This is what we're going to build a car with. So I got the scrap lumber from the railroad cars, and I'm building it on this back porch that we had. And it's coming out pretty good. I'm cutting ribs in it and designing it pretty good. And I get the car all built, but I didn't have a cowling cover for the front. So I took my mother's tablecloth, had one of those old plastic tablecloths, put that over, tacked it in, sprayed it black. It was great. My mother was still looking for the tablecloth. So then I got a steering wheel out of a car. I mean, a regular, this is a heavy-duty steering wheel. Hooked it up, and I had it so that I could steer the car with a steering wheel. This damn thing weighed. It was heavy as out of a car. And now I get the car built, and I got an old baby carriage, and I put baby carriage wheels on it. Right? Everybody's laughing like hell at me. What are you going to win with this thing? So we would take it up to the drugstore. I had one of those outside scales that you weigh everything on years ago. You put in 5 cents, and we'd put the car up on the scale. The car was allowed 250 pounds with me in it. And I'd get in the car, and we'd put it up, and the guy in the drugstore was pissed at us because we were screwing up his scale. But I got the weight down perfect. It was down really 250 pounds with me in it. And that meant the way I put the weight in the car, I'd get off fast, and I knew this car was fast. And never had to be rich. So I go up there on a hill. We practice with the baby carriage wheel, and Mr. Norton gave me a stopwatch, and he trained me how to check the weight of the car against certain spots on the track. So I had it down pat with the baby carriage wheels. Whatever held with the baby carriage wheel would hold with the good wheels when I get them on. So the day of the race came, right? So I told my mother, it's a Saturday, so I told my mother, get on your best dress, because today you're going to be in the Star Legend. They're going to be taking your picture, so come dressed. She said, you're that confident? I said, I'm that confident I'm going to win that race. So now, the day of the race, I put on the Firestone wheels, right? Now, we go up to the hill, and this thing flies. I mean, it is fast. We got up there so early, nobody was there yet. I wanted to test it out on the hill. We tested it out. So now that we got the car in the pit, and everybody's looking at these wheels. And most of the cars in that race were homemade that didn't stand a chance. But there was 2 cars in there. There was one by the Knights of Columbus. Mr. Hoffman's boys were running that car. And the other one was the another club, the Lions Club, I think it was. They had a car built in a body shop. I mean, they looked good. So you look at those 2 cars, and I said, man, they look good, but they didn't have the wheels. So the day of the race starts. The crowd is down at the bottom of the hill, and all I got is a sprag brake. So I go to the guy running. I'm 13 years old. I go to the guy running the race. I said, you got to get those people back. They'll never stop this car. Don't worry, we'll stop it. And so I'm in the first heat. When that car took off, halfway down that hill, it was like it had an accelerator. It hit that crowd, sent a lady to the hospital, busted up the front of the car. I mean, it was really banged up. Right? The first prize was a bicycle and $1,000 war bond. I said to Uncle Robert, I said, I'm going to win that bike for you. He didn't have a bike. So we hit the crowd. One of them got banged up there trying to stop this car. So anyway, the car is banged up, but it wasn't banged up that bad. I couldn't fix it. So we get back to the pits and I tack it back together and everything. And I went to the guy the second time. I said, you got to get that crowd back. I said, I'm going to hit that crowd again. We'll stop it. Mr. Hoffman was a big gun in the Knights of Columbus. And he knew that I had a winning car. So he comes over and I said, Mr. Hoffman, that crowd, I'm going to hit him again. So he said, well, we'll see about that. Second heat, I hit the crowd again. This time, knocking people on their ass. This car is hitting you like 30 miles an hour. So now the car is really banged up. Every time I hit the crowd, this heavy-duty steering wheel is coming up closer to my face. So now I'm back in the pits, and I don't know if I can run again. And one of the decisions was, Mr. Norton used to always say, after you test the car, he said, always dance with the girl you brought. Don't change nothing. What you brought, don't change the weight, don't do anything. That's it. Once you put the stopwatch on. So now I got this damn heavy-duty steering wheel coming up my face. And for the first time, I realized what the hell he was talking about. Don't change the weight. So anyway, Uncle Robert, is banged up. He sees the car. He's crying because he's seeing his bicycle go. So, and I'm looking at this damn car, and I'm saying, Jesus Christ, I could be up 2 more heats. I don't know if I could fix it up. Mr. Hoffman come over, and he said, I'm stopping the race until you get that car fixed. He said, it's not your fault they're banging that car up. He said, I'm going to get that crowd back. He said, I'll help you fix this car. And I said, Mr. Hoffman, look over at your boys. They're looking like this because they know that I can beat them. He said, we're going to get the crowd back. We get your car fixed up. He said, we're not allowed to help them. He said, but I'll give you any tools you need. He said, whatever you need. And he got the cop with the horse. And the horse and the cop went down. Pushed the crowd back. Really back. So now I got a clear shot. But my car is beat to shit. I mean, the cowlings are all broken. And I said, look at your boys. You're over here helping me. And I'm out to beat your car. And I said, you got a top car. He said, if you beat me today, I say touche. Touche, Jerry Warren. Now, I knew Mr. Hoffman good, and I knew his wife because I was in the Cub Scouts with them. They were our leaders. And I knew she was Italian, so I figured he was saying something in Italian, so I write touche on the bottom of the car. So I wanted to find out what it meant. So the steering wheel's gone now. I can't steer the car. So I said, I got to go to ropes. But a rope cost $1.98 for the package of rope. An extension cord cost 98 cents. Cheap, extension cord. So I called Uncle Robert. I said, Pop, he's crying. He said, we're out of the race. I said, I got a plan, don't worry. So he turns to all through the front and said, Jerry's got a plan. Don't worry. Holy shit. I'm over my first motivational speech, right? So I said, go down to the 5 and 10. You know them cords Mom buys, those extension cords? Get me one. He says, okay, I know what you have. What color you want? The white or the brown one? Give me the brown one. So he goes off, and we put an extension cord on the wheels. We took Mr. Hoffman gave me some string and I tied the cowling down and I straightened the car out the best I could. And now we're steering with just the cord. Now the crowd, I know the hill, and the the hill was on a slight slant, so I always took the upper lane. And that way when I come down and I turn, the car would take off like a rocket. Now the crowd figured this out. They said, put that car on the inside. This is the final heat. Now who am I up against? Mr. Hoffman's car was built in a body shop, and the Lions Club, Becker, who was built in a body shop. And Uncle Robert said, I don't think we're going to win. I said, oh, we might. I said, but it's going to be close because the crowd now is putting me on the inside lane, which you got off slow. Again, should I change the weight to get off a little faster? No. No, we're going to stay with what we got. And we get up to the finish, we get up to for the last heat. This wins it all. And I told Uncle Robert, I said, if we win, it's going to be in the last 10 feet. Because these cars are good, but these wheels are a little better, but I'm catching wind now because the whole car is. I'm 13 years old, talking like an engineer. I got it all figured out. And the race, when the flag went down, these other two cars, man, they were off. Bang! They were off to a good start. My car was slow, so slow getting off with all the extra weight on the slow lane. And I'm going like this, and finally got the car going. About halfway down that hill, that car caught fire, and I just passed him by like a half a length of a car at the finish line and won the race. And then the sad part of the story is my mother and father, my real father, was they were separated. She had a judgment against him where he couldn't come near us or something. While I'm getting ready for the final heat, I see my father over on the sideline. And after the race, I looked for him. I couldn't find him. And that was the last time I ever saw him. And Uncle Robert, he didn't know his real father because he was too young, you know. But Joey's a spitting image of him. You're the spitting image of my real father. And
and your father had dark hair, right?
Yeah, no, not that, a little darker, yeah, Joey had blonde. Yeah. But facial in the back of the head, and if Joey turns around, I'd swear it was my father. But that was the last time I saw him. But anyway, there we are in a circle. My mother's dressed in her best dress. They're taking pictures of her and the race, and those photos I got were given to me by the Star Ledger. And we got the bicycle, and we got the $1,000 war bond. And then that was like Saturday, and it was the following Saturday we had to go to the Tivoli Theater, and they up on the stage, the mayor gives you the bond and so forth and so on. But now you're going back, and I'm still trying to figure out what Mr. Hoffman. Oh, Mr. Hoffman. It was a contest between the Knights of Columbus and the Lions Club. Neither one of them won. Mr. Hoffman's going out. One of our boys did it. St. Rose's, that's it. Beat you guys. He was a good guy. And then so I wanted to know what touche meant, you know. It could be curse words, hell, right? So, and I go to a parochial school, so you never go to a nun and ask her something you have no idea what it means. So but Mrs. Clark, our 6th grade teacher, she was pretty good. She was a lay teacher. So I go to her. I was in 8th grade. I went to Mrs. Clark and said, do you know any Italian? She says, why? I said, Mr. Hoffman said, touche. I don't know, what's it mean? Do you have any idea? She said, oh yeah. She said, that means you were the best racer that day. Oh, that's what that means. It's French, she said. Anyway, that day, from that day forward, in the neighborhood, that was a big event in those days. It was like, we were the king of Newark that day. And ever since that day, they called me Soapbox. And years later, I married. I had a little Jerry up in Mystic Seaport. He was about 5 or 6, 7. And we're up in Mystic Seaport. We're taking them on the ships and stuff. And I hear a voice, "Hey, Soapbox!" It was a guy from the old neighborhood. And, he recognized me up there. Little Jerry says, "How can we call you Soapbox, Dad?" That's another story. But people ask me, "What's the greatest accomplishment you ever did?" And I said, "That soapbox derby race when I was 13 is the greatest accomplishment I ever did." What did I do? I designed the car myself. I knew where to go to win. Kept my mouth shut about what we had. Brought it out at the right time. And we didn't let adversity override us. We fixed that car. We didn't quit, and we won. And I said, that race set my personality for business and the rest of my life. I knew that we weren't worthless kids that won't amount to anything. That you can do it if you set your mind to it. And Uncle Robert and I, we did fine in life. I mean, we had our adversities, yeah. But we always helped one another, and even though we didn't see each other for maybe a year at a time, you knew he was there, and he knew I was there. And that was my friend for a lifetime. That's my story. Yeah, that was
Don't cry, everybody.
That was a good and what happened to the bicycle? Uncle Robert got it. It was stolen 2 weeks later.
No, figures.
In that neighborhood.
Yeah. What'd you do? I parked it outside the A&P while I went in to get the milk. That was it. It was done.
Yeah.
But it was really an accomplishment. And using my own money. We didn't have money. Since we were 10 and 11, we shined shoes, we took orders, we always made our own money, and I used my own money to do everything with this race.
Robert set up things at the bowling alley.
We used to set up pins in the bowling alley. We were hustling kids, and we used to. One parent, mother, she did the best she could. But a lot of times we bought our own socks and stuff like that. It was, when you have adversity like that, it makes you really close, because you have to help one another or else you don't survive.
Yeah, Grandpa used to say you guys would go to Pennsylvania and hang him and maybe you off the balcony by your ankles.
Oh yeah, your uncles were terrible.
Yeah, and then they flip them out.
Yeah.
It's like PTSD for like hanging from. So you hate me going up there.
Yeah,
You slept up in the attic,
Yeah,
and then they'd hide under the bed and scare the hell out of them.
Yeah. The worst thing they ever did, the worst freaking thing they ever did is at Christmas time when you hung the socks up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a little kid. I'm 7. Maybe I'm 7.5. Robert's 5. This is a big thing for kids at Christmas. They put coal in the sock as a joke. Now, how do you play a joke on a 5-year-old kid like that? I mean, when I think back to those days, it was tough. When you're not appreciated and loved, that's a tough go.
Yeah, but for you guys to come out as successful as you did, it's like, I mean, you got to give, I guess, the sergeant credit because the discipline. If you look back.
Yeah, I give my mom a lot of credit.
Still, it's a miracle.
But, yeah.
That's my opinion. Because I don't know if I was brought up, I think I would have taken the wrong turn, maybe.
Well, it could have been easy, and a lot of it I attribute to, I was pretty level-headed thinker. Yeah. And Robert would do whatever I did. And I remember Father Stone one time talking to us and about gangs and stuff like that. he said, never carry a pistol. He says, because here's what happens. He says, you just want to scare somebody with that pistol, and the other guy's got a pistol. He says, now you're in a position, the guy who shoots first lives. He says, you know how many guys went to death row because they had to shoot first to live? Because they just wanted to scare somebody? And when I thought about that, I said, I never pick up a gun. Never picked up a gun. And a couple of the guys we grew up with, they went up to the big house for shooting people with a gun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pistol.
Pistol, yeah. And,
Touch plenty of guns.
but it's,
Just not pistols.
yeah, pistols are, you can't carry them, you know, I could see going to a shooting range or something.
Yeah.
To carry a pistol, and that was the best advice we ever had as young kids. And it wasn't a real bad neighborhood. And then we got into motorcycles, and that was a real outlet for us. Because we'd work on motorcycles, we'd make some money fixing up other guys' motorcycles. By the time we were 16, we were expert mechanics. And, you know, plus I went to trade school. You know, he did too, for aeronautic. I went for machinist. Between the two of us, we really knew how to fix an engine, you know.
Wasn't there a time you guys were telling me, like, you raced and then you put on Pirelli tires, and that you had the bike, it was fast, and the only thing you were overlooking were tires, and then one time, you remember that? I think someone got that.
That's the story you told last night.
Oh, we were up in
The Pirelli tires made the difference.
Well,
you had the engine and everything, but then somehow either your bike got messed up and you had to borrow someone's tires.
now what happened is we were racing up in Laconia, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And a guy, his name was Jody Nichols from Neptune, New Jersey, and he had special tires. They would just come out. They were like a V, so that when he made the turns, all the rubber was on the road. He could make a turn faster than we could. But we had the better engine, and we knew neither one of us was going to win because we didn't have the whole
One had one, the other had
thing.
the other.
Yeah. And we were up against the Canadians, which the Canadians, we love to be the Canadians.
Oh.
And we went to Nichols and said, we'll flip a coin. Whoever wins, if we win, we get your tire. If you win, you get our engine. We flipped the coin, we lost, pulled the BSA engine, put it in his time, the same time, and he goes out and wins the race. So it was a good, but you know, you get, in the racing, sometimes it means more to have your guys win than you win.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you're up against competition.
Yeah.
But the greatest story of motorcycle racing was with Jerry at Skipback, Pennsylvania, Jerry.
What are you talking about?
Well, when you beat that half miler at Ingram. This was.
I think it was skip back, yeah.
This was a fast track. Okay, Jerry was running a Can-Am. It was a good accelerating bike, but it didn't take the turns that well. But it had good speed in the straightaway. This guy shows up. He's purely a half miler, and the bike is set up for turns. He could really take a turn, and he had the tires and he had the engine, and he was well known in Pennsylvania, like a top half miler in Pennsylvania. It was like the pro is going to come down and show the amateurs how it's done. Okay? So I watched him in practice, and I told Jerry, I said, when you run, I said, if you're out front, he's going to try and take you on the last turn, the last lap, on the outside. I said, don't run outside all day. I said, run inside, don't ever go on the outside of that track and practice the heat and everything. It was like watching a movie. The final come down, Jerry was out front, and he's right on Jerry's tail. And he knows Jerry never goes outside. I told Jerry, the last lap, you fade outside, you block him, he has to shut off, we'll win the race. Right, Jerry? It was like watching a rerun. He was on Jerry all about 15 laps. That last lap, after the white flag went down, then you knew he was going to make his turn. Jerry fades out. Bang, he had a shutdown. That's it. And everybody said, Jerry beat Ingram. The two, you know, it was really a great race.
Sounds cool.
It was really good.